Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Scott Gordon. I'm the Vice President of Talent Solutions with Vaco based in Nashville, Tennessee. Emily, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, Scott. I'm Emily Gamiel. I am a senior associate with Vaco Technology out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Good. It's good to see you this morning or this afternoon, rather. Um, the conversation that we're going to be having today, and I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee. The conversation that we're going to be having today is very timely because I think everybody can agree that we're about to have a flood of new graduates. Either you already have graduated, or you're about to graduate, or you plan way ahead and you want to see what it's going to be like next year when you graduate. Today, we're going to be talking about how to go from being a graduate to a candidate, or graduate to consultant, graduate to employee. The job market right now is tumultuous at best. It's great in some parts of the country and it's terrible in other parts of the country. So today we're going to be talking about, Emily and I are going to be talking about some of the better tips that we've seen for new students coming out of university. So Emily, let me ask you, if you were a new grad, your main network typically tends to be within your own university. It's through a fraternity, a sorority, or a user group, or whatever you need on campus. How can new grads build their network outside of a university?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Scott, I think the first place that you should probably go is just alumni groups from your college or university. You think about it, you've got so many graduates that were completed at your university 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're in all different places in life right now, in all different companies. And I think that that's a great kind of first step to tap into whenever you can kind of pull those heartstrings of, hey,
Sure.
I'm an alum from XYZ University, so are you, help a sister out.
Right.
I think that that's a great way. Something that I recommend to folks is a site called meetup.com.
Okay.
It is the host of a whole bunch of different networking groups. You can search based on, all different subjects, different types of, like, for example, we've got a group here in Raleigh called Downtown Techies that's on Meetup Group. And every single person that I meet that's in technology, I suggest that they go and join that group, follow along. There are some broader groups like that, and then there are some more specifics. So I think that those two places are really good places to start when you're looking to build your network outside of just your college or university or your graduating class.
Sure. Good. I will also add to that throughout LinkedIn, there's opportunities to find, and that's one of the kind of the more interesting things about being in the market. As long as I've been in the market, when I see people that are a possible connection, I can see where they've gone to school, or just via LinkedIn if you have your university on there. So try to connect with those people on LinkedIn as well. As you're 2 degrees separated from somebody that graduated from the same university, but maybe 10 years prior. So thanks for that, Emily. And also try the LinkedIn piece. So if a new grad is ready to come out, there seems to be just gobs and gobs of places to put their resume. Sometimes a counselor at the university will want to put it on their site, or I want to add it to Monster or whatever. What are some of the best platforms that you're seeing right now, and that you're hearing about from people that you're interviewing, of where do I put my resume?
Yeah, absolutely. So some more general kind of places, I think absolutely there's a function on LinkedIn where you can put your resume on your profile and have that available. And I think that that's super helpful. Some more sites that we see for technology specifically, I always point people towards dice.com.
Right.
As recruiters within Vaco, we utilize Dice all the time. I think some other sites that are worth looking into are things
Dice is just technology, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And then in terms of kind of more general, I think you can look at the career builders. I think Indeed.com does a good job. And then you mentioned Monster.com as well.
Sure. Good. I'd also encourage things like LinkedIn, or even if one of the questions that I always ask candidates when they come in is, if you could work for any town, or if you could work for any company in the city that you live in, what company would that be? And times you could apply, or just watch those companies, follow those companies and what they're doing in the social space and things like that, because I think that you're going to learn a lot about maybe how to apply. And some of those companies may only post positions for a half a day because they get so many applicants. So definitely target those companies as well.
Absolutely.
Emily, what experience should be listed on a resume for a new grad? Because if I just had, 4 years of class, and before that, I sacked groceries or I mowed grass for, in the neighborhood or something like that. What can I put on my resume?
Yeah, so I think when you're looking at that, it's important to kind of back into it of, hey, what skills have I developed throughout the years that are going to be attractive to a future employer? And so you may say, hey, I think, like, for example, I waited tables throughout high school and college. Definitely not an easy task, and shows that you are able to multitask, shows that you are able to project manage, shows that you also have great customer service skills. And so while you might think, hey, I was just bartending at this, restaurant here in Raleigh, I think that those are really applicable skills. And so I think you kind of back into it with, hey, what skills have I developed? How have I developed those over the years? And how are we going to show those to employers? So for me personally, so I was the editor of my college newspaper. And although I was not targeting opportunities that were in journalism or in publishing, I made sure to put that, because that showed off some project management skills and some delegation skills that I had gained throughout that experience. So, and I think, again, I hate to go back to technology specific, but it's the world that I live in every day. And so, if you're looking and you're like, hey, I just finished my comp sci degree and, I've written a bunch of code, what do I put out there? I think if you've got, a final project where you were tasked with a real life problem and you created a solution through technology, you put that on your resume and you put that on your GitHub. So really anything that is applicable and kind of shows the skills that you have developed over the years that are going to be attractive to employers.
Gotcha. Is it, I've got a couple of different questions, but if you don't have a lot of experience, how do you explain that in a job interview? I mean, how do you walk into an interview and say, well, no, I've never done that before, but the question that, and I'll give this to all new grads, the fact that you're a quick learner, everybody's a quick learner, and that's probably one of the top questions or top answers we receive. So how do you explain lack of experience, and how do you sell yourself into a position that you want?
Yeah, so one thing that I always encourage people, regardless of where they're at in the phase of their career, is just to be super open and honest with potential employers. And so I think it is, being upfront. Hey, look, I just graduated from college. I'm new to this career and to this, professional world. But here is kind of what I've done. And I think, grabbing from any, side hustle jobs, any, skills that you developed throughout your education, I think is really important to kind of bring to the table and say, hey, look, I was the leader of a group project and I had to delegate different tasks to different members of the group, and I had to hold people accountable to meet deadlines. What a great experience just to the table. And that's something that you did throughout your education.
Right. And I think that applying to expand on that, I mean, I think that in a university setting where you have those projects that you've done, I think that talking about anything that you were a part of, as far as if you were a part of the project or something that you built, even though it was for academic purposes only, I've asked that question on multiple occasions and have gotten crazy answers that, I built something that monitored who sat where in every class, and it was live, so you could see who was in class and who wasn't. I mean, those types of things where an employer may say, well, they're going to ask you more questions. What did you build that in? What did you grade at? What grade did you receive in that class? Those sorts of things that may only be academic, but they're still projects. So I think expanding as much of that as possible is gonna help you out quite a bit.
Yeah.
What about taking a temp job? I don't know if I don't know anything about temp work or being a consultant. Is it okay to do that while I'm waiting on my what I think my perfect opportunity might be?
Yeah, so I'll preface this with I'm not very good at sitting still. I like to be going and doing all the
Sure.
time.
Sure.
I will go for it. I mean, you've got to start somewhere, and any and all experience that you can get under your belt is going to be helpful. I would say there's kind of a fine line and a balance between, hey, you've got to get to work, you've got to pay your bills. You also have to make sure that you're diligent and taking time, and whether that's at night or on the weekends, doing that search and making sure that you are exploring any and all opportunities. But when people ask, hey, should I go for this? My kind of go-to is always, hey, if it's going to give you experience, absolutely,
Sure.
you go
Right.
for it.
Good. What about, I mean, and this is weird, me asking you this question because we both are, and without sounding like we're selling it, what about working with a recruiter?
Yeah.
Is that,
So,
is it good? Is it bad? Um, or what should someone expect having never done that before?
yeah, absolutely. So, without being biased, I do recommend reaching out to recruiters. I would say that, in terms of what we get, I would say for me specifically, I focus on more mid to senior level opportunities and roles. But what I can do to new grads and to people that are earlier on in their career is to provide market intel to say, hey,
Right.
these are the companies that are hiring right now. These are the most attractive places to work in the Triangle area or whatever geographic location that you are that you're currently in. And so I think that that's a great way to know. Also, to have resume reviews, a professional to be able to
So
go over your resume, say, hey, you need to highlight these things. These are the things you need to take out. I definitely recommend it.
good, good. And I can't say it enough because I've been doing it for so long, but I think that our job as recruiters is to know where the market stands, who's hiring, who's firing, that sort of thing. And it's not always that anytime you sit down with a recruiter, I would say a good recruiter, even a great recruiter, that they're just going to keep cramming jobs that you don't want down your throat. Um, a good recruiter can be a resource for you. I've worked with candidates that I have never hired, but I've given tons of information on. There are companies that we don't work with, and not everybody works with every company, but because we have the opportunity to meet and interview and have not necessarily intelligence on the company, but we do have some market knowledge of what it's like to work there and the best route to go to get there. I would definitely lean on a local resource. Find somebody that you like, find somebody that you trust, find somebody that you can establish a relationship, and hopefully it's a long lasting relationship. Emily, how long have you been in the Raleigh market?
So I've been with Vaco specifically for almost 3 years, but prior to
Good.
coming over into Vaco, I was doing internal recruiting for a marketing agency for about 5 years before I switched over to the agency side. And I actually ended up at Vaco through a recruiter that I trust and still talk to probably at least 2 or 3 times a month.
Awesome. Awesome. Can you tell me what, can you speak nationally or can you speak more locally on what kind of industries are hiring right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously with, the pandemic that we're facing right now, things have shifted a little bit, but some of the industries that we've seen, I would say both locally and on a national and global scale, some folks that were still hiring are people in the financial industry, people in online learning. So you think about the way that our schools and learning have shifted over the past, 3 months. Everybody is online now. And so those companies are growing like crazy. A couple of other things that I would keep an eye out for are technology companies that enable communication. So I think, one of the biggest jokes over the past few months is like, man, if I knew that I was supposed to invest in Zoom 2 years ago, I would have done so.
Yeah.
So I think that that's an obvious one as well. And then in addition to that, I think healthcare and pharmaceutical research is another industry that we've seen, keep pretty steady, if not uptick.
Yeah, good. That's great. All great points. I'm waiting for that article that comes out that says what you would make today if if you had invested $5 in Zoom, a year ago. The same article that comes out about Oracle and Amazon and Microsoft and all of that. So, what advice would you give to a new grad, because we're in the age of the pandemic with COVID-19 and we don't have the ability to do face-to-face and we spend more time doing this? what are some of the tips that you would give a new grad as far as what's the best way to present yourself and stand out really in the age of the pandemic?
Yeah, so one thing that, as cheesy and as corny as it could sound, is practice. I mean, getting on these Zoom conversations, getting on, FaceTime calls with people that are in your network that you can trust. I mean, that could be, people that you're graduating with. It could be professors, making sure that you are able to show that you are a polished, engaging individual, which can be hard over a video chat. But I think the more that you practice that, the more that you perfect it, and the better you're going to stand out through the interview process.
So practice.
You got it.
Like mock interviews, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we do, I know within Vaco and, within a lot of other areas of life, is just role play. So, give somebody a call. Hey, I'd like you to mock interview me and ask me questions as if you were not my friend, but as if you were an HR representative or a hiring manager. Be able to just practice that, I think, is super important.
Yeah, that does lessen the nerves. That's sometimes one of the most difficult conversations that you're going to have. And if you have it with someone and you're kind of used to those questions and you plowed your way through it, when you get that question in a live interview, it's much easier.
Absolutely.
So I just earned my degree. I got my degree in business. I have no idea what kind of job I want. My dad is an accountant. My mom is a registered nurse. I have no idea what I want to do. And my uncle owns the gas station down the street. So that's kind of my world. So where do I go? How do I know what I want to do? I guess the question is, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Where do I start?
Yeah, so what I would say is you've got to start somewhere. I mean, I was definitely one of those people. When I graduated college, I had a degree in English, and I didn't want to be a teacher, and I had no idea what to do. I took an office manager job at a marketing agency straight out of college. I started there 2 weeks after. Some of it's organic. I happened to have the internal recruiter at the time kind of take me under her wing about 6 months into it. But what I did in those first, few months is really observed what the people in the organization were doing, what they were responsible for, kind of what made them tick and what they were interested in, how that related to their job that they were doing. And these were people that had been, in their profession for 5, 10, 15 years, but really getting into a great organization and really just opening your eyes and saying, all right. And I will say, you have to be a hard worker. I mean, you can't expect somebody just to say, here, you've been working as our, front desk receptionist for 6 months. Here's this great opportunity. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of putting yourself out there and being assertive and just showing your interest and saying, hey, I see what this person is doing. How can I get there?
I totally agree. Speak up. Speak up, have a voice, and ask people to listen to your ideas. I don't think that, I can remember my first job out of school. It was not glamorous. It was down and dirty, but it's learning and taking steps, and the more you learn, the more you speak up, and the more you share your ideas, the more opportunity you're going to have, and people will absolutely notice that.
For sure.
Emily, we're running up on about 20 minutes. So I want to say thank you for jumping on with me today. And how can people reach you in the Raleigh market if they need to, if they're interested in working with Vaco or working with you specifically?
Yeah, check me out on LinkedIn. Definitely connect with me there. My email address is and then my last name @vaco.com, which is listed on the post on LinkedIn. So feel free, shoot me a note, connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to help anyone that we can.
Great. My email address is Scott, SCOTT @Vaco. I work with all of our recruiters around the United States, as well as in Canada and overseas as well. So if you're interested in any one of our markets in particular, certainly check out our website and connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a note, and we can start a conversation there. So I appreciate everyone jumping on today, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you. Happy graduation, by the way.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Appreciate it, and hope this was helpful.
Yeah, bye-bye.